2013, at 8 a.m., officers responded to a residence located in the first 100 block of Coleridge Park Drive to check the well-being of the occupants. A 2-year-old female and male infant were located inside the home and later pronounced deceased. Police requested the public's assistance in locating the children's mother, Lisa Gibson. On Saturday, July 27, 2013, shortly after 9:30 a.m., a body was observed in the Red River south of the Alexander Docks. Emergency personnel were dispatched and the body of Lisa Gibson was removed. The investigation continued by members of the homicide unit. This matter, like all homicide investigations, required in-depth investigative work surrounding forensics, as well as awaiting for time-consuming crime lab results. The criminal portion of this investigation is now concluded, and based on the investigation to date, it has been determined that this matter is a homicide-suicide. The death of the 2 children identifies the city's 14th and 15th homicide of 2013. To date, there have been 20 homicides within the city of Winnipeg.
Is there a cause of death, Jason?
The cause of death at this time is consistent with drowning.
Can you say who made the 911 call?
You know, I can't say specifically who made the 911 call. I can tell you that officers did respond. We did receive a call to check the well-being of the occupants. Officers did attend, and it was later determined that 2 young children were located in the home. Those 2 children were later pronounced deceased in hospital.
Do we know more about the mental state of the mom and the treatments she might have received?
You know, I don't, and I know that's been there's been a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions about that at the time, and we're absolutely sensitive to that. Our goal today and our goal with respect to the homicide investigation is to determine exactly what took place, and certainly waiting for the results of not only autopsy, toxicology reports. We want to report factual information, and that's what we're in the business of doing. And it did take some time, but again, there's a lot of things that we certainly understand took place with respect to the mother and the children in an incredibly unfortunate circumstance.
In terms of that, Jason, do you have any sort of a timeline that depicts what happened, how those children wound up where they were found through the investigation at this point? Can you kind of break down what police already know?
Well, like I say, I can't provide you with a timeline. I can tell you the only timeline that I can provide you is the fact that we were called to this particular residence to check the well-being of the occupants. We did so. We later learned that there were 2 young children. Again, we're talking about a 2-year-old female and an infant male located in the home. They were later pronounced deceased. Certainly, as our investigation unfolded, Lisa Gibson was nowhere to be found. Efforts and reaching out to the public, reaching out to the media to locate Lisa was certainly a high priority for us. Unfortunately, we did locate her, as we're all fully aware, and again, a very unfortunate circumstance. Members of our homicide unit have been working tirelessly. We've been relying on the support of other professional partners with respect to the cause of death, autopsy, and toxicology reports, and we are not going to, again, not release information until we're absolutely certain. At the time of the incident, it may have been very apparent to members of the public and to the media as to what took place, but that's not good enough for us. We want to report fact, we want to do our due diligence, and at this time we're satisfied with that information that we've now received and reporting it to you today.
So is this investigation closed or is it ongoing?
The criminal investigation is closed. However, like in any investigation, if new information came to light, we absolutely would reopen it and move forward accordingly. But right now and today, this criminal component or the criminal side of this investigation is now concluded, and we are treating it as a homicide-suicide.
Jason, do you know investigators with some of this forensic work been able to determine when Lisa Gibson died in terms of the incident? Are we talking that same morning, perhaps within minutes or hours, or days later?
Yeah, and that's a good question and a very relevant question. I don't have the answers to that specifically. Again, we don't typically provide specific information or a specific time as to when an individual was pronounced deceased. And you certainly have to understand, just because an individual was pronounced deceased at a particular time, that is an official time in which medical professionals are determining that individual is deceased. There could be other variables at play with respect to when they actually died. So again, very sensitive to this particular scenario, and again, we fully understand that there's been a lot of questions since we initially released this unfortunate circumstance, but again, we do have formal reports, toxicology reports from the medical examiner, and we're confident at this time with respect to the information that we're releasing.
Given the medical examiner's involvement in this, there's been talk of an inquest or inquiry. Does this file now move in that direction?
Yeah, once an investigation is concluded criminally, then again, medical examiner would have that have that opportunity to call an inquest. So again,
You mentioned the toxicology results. Were the kids drugged?
I'm not aware of any drugs or anything in the deceased as far as the children go, but again, that's not information I would necessarily provide.
There have been reports out there that a family member found the children and not first responders. Is that true, or can you confirm that?
Yeah, I can tell you that when officers did attend, and again, we're still looking at certainly the response by emergency personnel, and I can tell you right now that further assessments are taking place and are underway. So I won't get into the details with respect to who first found the deceased or the children within the home, but I will tell you and say for sure that further assessments with respect to emergency response to the home is underway.
Does that mean there's kind of questions about what happened when responders got
No,
to the
I'm
house?
not suggesting anything of that nature. What I'm suggesting is that we are a learning organization. We come across different situations on a daily basis. And when there are questions with respect to our response, we need to provide answers, we're going to look into it, and we're going to ensure that if we can do things better, and again, I'm not suggesting that we could have done anything differently or better, but again, in general, we are a learning organization, and we're going to assess how we respond to any incident and do our utmost to ensure that we improve and do better from day to day.
You say questions are being raised about the response. Is it questions raised by media? Is it questions raised
I think
internally?
media,
Or
I'm just saying that in general terms. I'm saying that response from typically, whether it be the media or the public, that question has come up. So I am addressing that question by stating that further assessments with respect to emergency response is underway.
Would that be something shared publicly, or is that strictly an internal assessment?
I can tell you that it would be an internal assessment at this point. Where that would go, I can't speculate, and I certainly am not going to acknowledge that that's something that we will be providing further details in the future. I certainly wouldn't be in a position to predict that.
Should it take 71 days to figure that out?
Figure what out?
Well, to review a response? To figure out what happened?
The
Figure out
time,
what the responders did, and whether that was perfect?
yeah, good question. The time that has taken since we last provided information, our focus was the homicide investigation, the criminal investigation with respect to young children and mother. Our investigation has been very much focusing in on that, focusing in on what took place, cause of death, trying to determine, again, what potentially was in the bodies of the deceased, again, toxicology reports, things like that. That is all very time consuming, and that is not something that we do alone. We rely on other professionals to assist us in that, and it takes time. So again, like I said already, we are in the business of releasing factual information. What may have seemed apparent at the time, we were comfortable releasing information once we had those facts provided to us when those reports were complete.
Can you at all, I remember at the time there were a lot of first responders who were quite traumatized by what they saw in that house. Are people still off? Are they still seeking treatment?
And that's, again, another really good question. I am not aware, and I'm certainly not going to get into the specifics of this matter, but I can tell you that, in general, when officers attend any type of traumatic scene, we take that very seriously. We take the health of our members very seriously, and will provide any support required, whether that, and we do have dedicated members within our behavioral health unit to assist those members if required. Again, I say that in general terms, but no question for our members and anyone that would have attended the scene, there's always that potential that officers may have some questions that need to be answered themselves.
Is there any update on how Brian Gibson is doing?
You know, I wouldn't be in a position to speak on family, but as we've stated before, I can't even begin to imagine what the family is going through and continue to go through. And as a police agency, our thoughts are certainly with them, and any supports that we can provide from this point forward, as we have in the past, we're absolutely going to provide those supports.
I'm not sure if this has already been asked, but from the time first responders got to the house to the time the children were found, how long was that time period?
And again, that's a timeline question that you're asking, and really the only comment that I can provide is that an assessment with respect to emergency response is underway,